You've likely never owned a single share from the world's fastest growing continent. One might think these hidden stock markets are full of easy profits, but in reality, a company making a 50% profit can actually lose you money. Here's the hidden truth Wall Street isn't telling you. Before we dive in, let's clear up a major myth. When people talk about African stocks, they often picture tiny, unknown markets across the board. But that's actually incorrect. South Africa's exchange, the JSE, is a massive powerhouse. It holds over $1 trillion in market value and hosts global juggernauts. In fact, South Africa accounts for around 60% of the continent's entire stock market value. However, outside of South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, and Morocco, the picture changes completely. The remaining dozens of African exchanges are practically invisible to global investors. If you open standard Western trading apps right now, you won't find direct listings for most companies in Kenya, Ghana, or Ivory Coast. Why? It comes down to a simple cycle. Outside of the top handful of countries, most listed African companies are relatively small by global standards. Because these companies are small, massive institutional funds in the US and Europe can't dump millions of dollars into them without single-handedly distorting the share price. And because big funds don't buy them, major retail brokers don't bother building the costly legal and digital infrastructure needed to connect to local African exchanges. Without easy access on popular apps, everyday retail investors simply never hear about them. But here is the part that usually catches people off guard. It is actually cheaper for an American fund manager to buy stock in a Japanese robot company than to buy stock in a giant Kenyan telecom giant. The friction isn't just distance, it's legacy clearinghouses, settlement delays, and fragmented financial regulations that force every country to act like its own isolated island. However, one might assume that low attention means bad businesses. That couldn't be further from the truth. Because these markets are isolated, many listed companies enjoy virtual monopolies in rapidly expanding economies. While US tech stocks often pay almost 0% in dividends, top telecommunications and banking stocks across sub-Saharan Africa frequently dish out 8%, 10%, or even 15% plus annual dividend yields. On top of that, Africa is home to the youngest, fastest-growing population on Earth. Demand for mobile banking, internet infrastructure, and consumer goods is skyrocketing. Take mobile payments as an example. While Western banks took decades to digitize, parts of East Africa skipped traditional bank accounts entirely, creating massive, hyper-profitable fintech ecosystems practically overnight. In short, the underlying businesses are often absolute cash machines. So, why aren't adventurous investors jumping through hoops to buy in? Here is where that mind-bending reality kicks in. A stock can gain 50% in local currency, and you can still end up with less money than you started with. First, there is currency devaluation. If a local currency loses 60% of its value against the US dollar, while your stock rises 50%, your earnings vanish the moment you convert back to cash. Second, there are capital controls, or locked doors. In several frontier markets, governments restrict foreign currency leaving the country. You might make a fortune on paper, but find yourself unable to convert your profits back into dollars or euros to withdraw them. Even if you want to hold for 30 years, holding local cash sitting idle while waiting for central banks to clear exchange backlogs burns your actual purchasing power every single day. African stocks aren't hidden because they lack value. They're hidden because the financial pipelines connecting them to Western brokers are broken, risky, and expensive. For now, unless you use specialized frontier market ETFs or local brokers on the ground, these markets remain one of the financial world's last wild frontiers.